Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Captain's Log. It is just about 4:15 on the 5th of August 2020. On today's episode, we're going to go over the combination vehicle test and we're going to pick 5 questions at random. There's only 20 on the test, so that's 20% of the test we're going to go over real quick here. Just to get started, I took this test this morning when I got done with my night, and I scored an 85%. So not a bad score. I hadn't looked at any of this material in 20 years. So given I haven't done any reading or studying, I think I did pretty good. All right, so let's just real quickly do this because I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to try and get the air brake test done immediately following this before I start my day. Okay, so let's just get started with the first question. To stop a trailer skid, you should A. Use the trailer handbrake, B. Counter steer, or C. Release the surface brakes. Okay, now this question deals with slippery conditions. Could be wet from rain or snow, ice. Basically what happens is you have 3 points of contact with the ground. You have your front steer tires, which do just what they say they do. They provide forward steering to the vehicle. Then you have your 8 drive tires, which do what they say. They provide the power to move the trailer forward, or move the load forward and backwards going down the highway. And then you have your trailer tires, and you have 8 tires on your trailer. So those are your 3 points of contact with the ground. You could have a steering skid, which when that happens, you're basically along for the ride. You can't really do anything to mitigate that. The only thing you can do is hit the accelerator, because that's going to get you some more forward momentum. But if you're trying to turn into, say, a parking lot or into a driveway or something like that, you just keep going right on by it. And if you happen to lock up your front unit, the trailer is a lot heavier than the tractor is, so you can just push the tractor out of the way, and that's how you get into a jackknife. The second set of contacts provides your forward and rearward momentum. Now, if you were to let's see here, if you were to lose control of your truck with the drive tire skid, only thing you're gonna do if you steer is make it worse. So you can counter steer a little bit, but you can't brake and steer at the same time. You can do one or the other, but not both. And then this question pertains to a trailer skid, so your trailer tires losing traction with the road surface. So the trailer handbrake, not every truck has one. Mine does. There's a lever right behind the steering wheel, where you would see, like in your old style automatics that had the gear shifter on the steering column. That's where it is, and it just pulls straight down, and it only applies braking to the trailer, nothing to the tractor. And that's when you're hooking up, you want to test your trailer brakes. That's how you test your trailer brakes. You pull that lever down and then pull against the locked brakes to see if you can either if you move or you don't. Obviously, if you move, then you've got bad trailer brakes. Option B, counter steer. You can counter steer for a drive axle skid, but if you counter steer with a trailer axle skid, all that's going to happen is the trailer is going to come swinging around, and you're going to jackknife. So your first 2 options, A and B, are incorrect. Now, option C is to release the surface brakes, and what that basically means is to step off the brake pedal. Now, that might seem counterintuitive, but the only way to get control of your trailer again is to get forward momentum under it. And the way you do that is you let off the brakes and you gently, I cannot stress how important, apply gentle pressure to the accelerator. And the idea is to gain your traction back and because you always want the trailer behind, straight behind the tractor. You don't want it to be off tracking to the left or to the right, because you're going to spin, and that's not going to be a happy day for anybody. So that's the first question. Okay, let's pick another one here. Now, mind you, I don't have any preordained choice. I'm just picking them at random here. So let's find another one here. Okay, here's a good one. This is another safety one. There are two things that a driver can do to prevent a rollover. Excuse me. They are: 1, go slowly around turns, and 2, keep both hands firmly on the steering wheel. B, keep the car go as close to the ground as possible. And C, keep the fifth wheel free play as small as possible. Okay, so your first choice is to keep both hands firmly on the steering wheel. That's not going to do anything to keep you from rolling over a truck. All that's going to do is help you steer and have a good grip on the steering wheel. That's all that's going to do. And the ideal is to have both hands on the steering wheel at all times, because you can hit a bump and that could rip the steering wheel right out of your hand if you're not holding it securely. So that's the incorrect choice. Option C, keep the fifth wheel free play as small as possible. That's not going to do anything to prevent a rollover. All that's going to do is what am I trying to say? Keep everything tight. And option B in this question, keep the car as close to the ground as possible, and that has to do with center of gravity. And the idea is, the higher your load center of weight is compared to the vehicle that it's in, changes its center of gravity. So if you got a load that's very tall, obviously you're going to have a very high center of gravity. And if you're going around a corner, it doesn't take a whole lot to roll over a truck. The lower you keep the center of gravity to the the floor of the trailer, that's going to make your vehicle more stable. Now, the first part of that question is to go slowly around turns. That's important. That whenever you're driving down the highway, when you see a curve coming up, you should slow down as you enter the curve. And what that's going to do is allow you to maintain solid control. And as you proceed into the curve, you want to slowly accelerate, which then adds power to the drives, which is going to keep the trailer right behind you, because you don't want to jackknife, obviously, at all, and you don't want to roll over. Good rule of thumb: some of the places where you're going to see these kind of dangerous situations where rollovers are really easy is on and off ramps. If you look at the side of the road, you'll see a sign that it shows a speed limit. Let's say it says 25 miles an hour, and it shows like a little round arrow. Now that is the safe speed for a car. So if you take that turn with a high center of gravity at 25 miles an hour, there's a pretty good chance that you could roll it over, and that's a surefire way to lose your future as a commercial driver, is to roll over a truck. So the rule of thumb is to enter and exit the highways at 1/2 the posted speed limit. So if the speed limit is 50, 25. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because I can't stress how important it is to keep control of your vehicle at all times. All right, let's move to the next one. Okay, here's a basic housekeeping question. Now it says, why should you lock the tractor glad hands together or use dummy couplers when you're not towing a trailer? Why is that important? Okay, so here's your options. A, the connected brake circuit becomes a backup air tank. B, if you didn't, you could never build system pressure. And C, it will keep dirt and water out of lines. Now, this probably seems like a really straightforward question, but a lot of people think that if you don't have those couplers together for some reason, it's gonna not allow you to build air pressure. And that's completely false. The only reason or only way air goes into those lines is when you release the park and brake and your trailer air supply controls in the tractor. So those air lines could be flapping in the breeze, and it's not going to cause one bit of issue with not building air pressure, which is the option B, and the connected brake circuit becomes a backup air tank. That is, they're not even connected to a tank. There's a valve that separates the tanks from the airlines, and if that valve's closed, it's absolutely pointless to consider that, because there's no air into it, so it can't be a second air tank. So that's just a completely stupid statement. And the correct answer is it will keep dirt and water out of the lines, and that's important because you want to keep your airline pristine, because you don't want a bunch of contamination inside your airlines that is going from the tractor air into the trailer, especially water. Water is a big deal, especially in the wintertime, because if you get water in your airlines, you freeze up your brakes and you're not going anywhere. So you have to use an alcohol chemical that you pour into the airline when you take the airline off the tractor, or off the trailer, and you pour your liquid into the airline. And then when you hook up the airline to the trailer and you open the air supply, that's going to force that alcohol mixture into the airlines, which will circulate into the trailer and hopefully defrost your if you have any ice inside your airlines. So that's your correct answer, is to keep the dirt and water out of the lines. Now you don't have to put your red and your blue lines together. That's just silly. Most tractors have a hanging bracket that you just hook your airlines to the hanging brackets, and then you put your electrical cable inside it. It has a little like cup that just sits in there, and that keeps dirt and grime from getting into the electrical connectors, because your plug coming off the tractor that goes to the trailer is the female side, and the trailer is the male side. So the plug that comes off has 7 holes. So you want to put that inside the cup that is attached to the back of the trailer. And I'll add a picture to show you what I'm talking about, because it might be hard to visualize. And the whole idea is to keep dirt and contaminants, especially water, out of those airlines and your electrical connections. Let's see. Let's go back here. Alright, this is just a basic hook and unhook steps. So what you want is, actually I'll combine questions 2 and 3 that are on this practice test. And question 2 is how much space should be between the upper and lower fifth wheel after coupling. Now the fifth wheel is attached to the tractor. That kind of looks like a round, I don't know, a saddle, and it has a groove with locking jaws. And the upper fifth wheel is what's underneath the trailer on the bottom, so the two come together. And so the question, or the answers are: A, just enough to see light through; B, none; or C, about 1/4 inch. And the ideal is nothing. You don't want to see any daylight. So the only possible answer to that is none. And the reason why I'm combining these two is they're completely totally related to hooking and unhooking. So the next question is: when backing a tractor under a trailer, you should A, always use the lowest reverse gear; B, always approach the trailer at a slight angle; And C, do it quickly to ensure that the kingpin is locked into the fifth wheel. The kingpin is a stud, looks like a big giant bolt with a groove that goes all the way around, that sticks out from the bottom of the trailer, that attaches to the tractor end of the fifth wheel. Now, always use the lowest reverse gear is your correct answer, because you want to back up slow. So that negates option C, which is to do it quickly. The idea is to do it nice and slow, and always approach the trailer at a slight angle. It's silly. It's a throwaway. It makes no sense. And the reason why, like I said, I combine these two is when you're hooking up a tractor to a trailer, you want the trailer low enough that when the fifth wheel it tilts down and the trailer will hit on the lip, and as you back underneath, it'll slightly lift the trailer to lock it in place. Now, that whole idea is, if you keep the trailer low enough, when you back underneath it and you lock it, you're not going to jump the kingpin. And the kingpin, like I said, sticks down. So let's use this bottle of soda as an example. So if your fifth wheel is too low or your trailer is too high, what happens when you back underneath, the kingpin will go right over the fifth wheel, and you'll just keep backing up until you slam into the back of the tractor into the trailer. So that's the whole reason why you want to keep that fifth wheel low. So when you're backing underneath, it's at the same height, and click, done. You put it in a forward gear with the brake set, the trailer brakes that is, and you pull forward hard against that lock to make sure you have a solid connection. And then once you get out to go hook up your airlines and raise your landing gear, you want to take a peek underneath the trailer to make sure that the fifth wheel release pin, it's kind of like a long handle, is in its full inward position, and the jaws in the back of the fifth wheel are closed tightly, and there's no daylight between the fifth wheel and the trailer, and the groove that's in the kingpin is in the seat on the fifth wheel where it's supposed to be. So that's your combination vehicle test, the kind of questions you can expect to see. Obviously there'll be a lot of different variations to the same kind of questions. Always, whenever you're doing these multiple choice tests, you want to take a second to read the question, and when you read it, understand why, or not why, but what the question is asking you. So if you see questions like always, never, must, and another option, other words like that, always, never, must, unless, those are kind of keywords that stand out, and you want to read the question thoroughly. Don't even look at the answers. Just read the question, understand it, and then look at your answers. And generally, there's going to be one of the answers that's going to be completely idiotic, makes no sense. There'll be one that's close, and then there's that correct answer. So you always want to choose the most correct answer. And remember, if you ever have a true or false type question, if there's any part of that statement that is false, then the whole answer is false. Remember that. It'll save you a lot of headaches in the future. So on that note, we'll close down episode 6. In about 2 minutes time, I'm going to record episode 7, which we're going to go over the air brakes. So stick around for that. On that note, have a good day. Thanks for watching the Captain's Log.